for coming back, and this will be our third last lecture. So I'll try to teach you something useful in the last few classes. Of course, everything before that should be useful too, but these last few lessons should be very important. But somehow we taught the materials somewhat faster than I thought. So some of the materials are new this year. For example, started last part of last class, we talked about PM book, which is the study guide or the knowledge definition of how to get the project management professional qualification. So we'll continue this week and next week to talk about it. And we started a little bit last week. And there were 10, let's see, I think we covered this slide already. So there are a total of 10 knowledge areas. So hopefully, if some of you want to become a project manager, these 2 weeks should give you a background so that when you study for the exam, it will become a little bit easier because of the background. But actually, the stuff that we're going to teach, we actually touch on different parts of project management already. So I would spend more time on the part that we never had thought about before, okay? So at the end of this unit, we'll cover up to quality management. So the first knowledge areas is called project integration management. It covers a number of areas that tie the whole project together. For example, initially you would create a project charter, which is a short document that highlights the key things you expect from the project, and also a more detailed project management plan, more detailed than the project charter. And there are these other activities that's part of the project integration management. And how are these processes related? For example, we have a total of 47 processes in PMBOK, and they are related. First, each process will be defined by the input, sometimes it's documents, okay, and sometimes it could be programs. And so each process will be defined by inputs, outputs, and the kind of techniques you use. And processes can be connected by some process outputting something for the input of another one. For example, if we look here, okay, you should be able to see it. This is the project, the knowledge area of project integration management, and it has 6 processes defined. And the first process is develop project charter, and you can see that its output is a project charter. But the project charter will be the input of another process called develop project management plan, and obviously the output of this will be the project management plan, but the main input is the project charter. So processes in project management can be you can connect them by using the input and output. So the output of some process become the input of the other process. So they are related. They are all related in some way. And this loop here shows something very similar to very common in project management. That is, you would start from some initial activities, and then you do planning and you execute your plan. And after that, you would monitor your own progress and try to control. For example, if you're behind, then you speed up. And if you run over budget, then you try to save some money. Okay, so this is what it means by control. And then you keep going through it. And sometimes if you need to make a change, then you go through the change request process that we have taught a few previously. Okay, maybe earlier this year. So this is what the project charter contains, and this is the process of develop project charter. It takes these as the input and then use the techniques here to create this output. And you may wonder what these term means. We have discussed, for example, business case is actually a document to explain why it is meaningful to do this project. Okay, why it's worth doing. Okay, and agreements is perhaps some agreements from sponsor. So because for a project to go through, you need to have someone to pay for the project. You pay for the salary, pay for all the expenses. So someone must agree to buy the product that you create at the end. So there would be some agreement. Okay, and enterprise environmental factors, these may not appear as a document, but is the surrounding environment. For example, let's say if you are working for Apple company making iPhone, then your environment would include competition from Samsung and Huawei. So even those information may not appear nicely in a document, but actually those are factors to consider. And what is organizational process access? Okay, this we will see today, that maybe you're running a project and you're looking for, you're trying to think, you're thinking about quality. Okay, how good we need to make this product. How many defects are acceptable? Okay, because in general we cannot make sure that our product is perfect. So how good is good enough, right? If it has too many defects, then we cannot ship the product. If it's below certain number of defects, then we are okay. But how do we know how good is good enough? So there could be some historical information we keep in the company. For example, maybe our company have shipped a product with, let's say, 5 defects per 10,000 lines of code, and the product went well. But if we ship a product with 20 defects for the 10,000 lines of code, then customers did not like it and reject the product. So based on some historical information of we can do the planning. Okay, so this organizational process actions will be those historical information. You may remember in Scrum we have the term velocity. The velocity records. So the velocity records the productivity of the team. So you can use those old data to help you predict the new project. So those old data inside your company will be your organizational process assets. And this is the content of a project management plan. You want to identify what are the critical success factors. Usually there would be multiple success factors. If you are, let's say if you're creating iWatch or some gadget, okay, you may want to have one of the success factor is the product looks very attractive. Okay, we call it wow, WOW, wow. Okay, so when people see your new product, people will say, wow, this is fabulous, this is fantastic. So that may be one of the success factor, or quality may be another success factor. So you want to know what will be important to your business. If you are setting up a restaurant in a not so wealthy neighborhood, then your critical success factor would be you sell inexpensive food. Okay, but if you are setting up a restaurant in an expensive business area, then maybe your success factor is very fancy food. So the success factor of products, even you may be in the same business, it could be different, depends on how you target. Okay, if you're, for example, if you're making notebook computers for young people or for older people, may be different. For young people, you can have maybe they take their computers or tablets around all the places. So portability may be important. So when you make a laptop computer for young people, but if you're using it for mature people or even people who are in their 50-year-old, 60-year-old, then they may not carry their computer all over the places. So for them, because their eyesight may not be as good as young people, so you may need to make a machine with bigger screen so that they can see easier. So the critical success factor really depends on your target customer. Scope statement, deliverables, what you expect to deliver from the project, how much money you expect to spend, the time frame, the quality, and how the project team members would communicate with each other. Okay, so this is the communication part. What risks that would affect the project, and how to do project control. So these are the contents in the project management plan. So that was last week. So let's move on to project scope management, which is, I think is, let's see if it's in here. Project scope management. Is it in here? Maybe, okay. So project scope management is the second knowledge areas. Okay, so is not a process but an area. So this area contained 5 processes altogether. One process is collect requirements, another one is define scope, create work breakdown structure, control scope, and validate scope. And each process has its own work products. For collect requirements, the work product may be the requirements document. And define scope, the work product would be the scope statement. And for the create work breakdown structure, obviously the work products is the work breakdown structure. And let me ask you the difference between control scope and validate scope. I guess you need to understand the meaning of these 2 words. Control scope, that means you may make changes. Okay, remember control. The word control suggests making adjustment. So there may be changes, and for a project to for the changes to be approved, it has to be first submitted as change request. So after approval, then you authorize the change, and then you have a new like the product requirements should be updated to reflect your changes. And validate, it means checking. Okay, so the whole project is supposed to produce some deliverables. So the validate one would try to make sure that the deliverables are acceptable. Okay, so let's look at this sample requirements document. We learned that requirements can be functional requirements and non-functional requirements. Functional requirements refer to what you can do with it. For example, okay. Oh, so this requirements document is about a game, okay, a fictitious game called Cows Go Wild 3. Okay, suppose so this characters in this game would be cows, right? So maybe one feature of this game is for the cows to be able to move underwater. Okay, so the cow can move anywhere. So some feature may be cow climbing or jumping or climbing mountain, but one is to move underwater. So for this particular game, okay. And well, you want to, in your documents, it's always a good idea to record rationale. Rationale means reason for doing that. And you make the reason saying that, oh, because you have polled your gamers. Poll 即係話民意調查咁嘅意思啦，做一啲民意嘅調查嘅功夫。Okay, you poll your gamers, and they said that they like to have the game to be able to happen underwater. They think it's fun. So your requirements will become cows can swim, and also, so solving some puzzle underwater should require swimming. Okay, so some activities underwater, in water or underwater, can earn the player, the game player, some reward. Okay, so this is a functional requirements. And what is a non-functional requirements look like? Well, it says Also, you've noticed that usually we give a code name to each requirement. So maybe we have 20 requirements, 30 requirements. So each one will have a code name. And this one says the cows go wild 3 has to perform better than cow goes wild 2. So in what way? Well, that means it cannot do any slower, okay? If it's slow, then players will lose interest. And the summary would be new functionality cannot slow down the gameplay, okay? So that would be a description of the non-functional requirements. And the rationale is gamers will be unhappy if after adding the new features, the game slow down. Because if the new feature would make player happier, but then if it slow down, the players will not be happy. So it's like one improvement, one getting worse, then overall your game is not improving. So we want to improve the feature on one hand, but do not slow down the performance. So that is the rationale behind it. And so we always says that feature is black and white, because either the cow can swim, either the cow cannot swim. And for non-functional requirements, we want to be very careful, because when we say we don't want it to be slow, but then how slow is slow? So here it gives some actual time. Okay, for example, the time to get to the next level, to load the game up to the next level, must be under 15 seconds. So as a company, you probably want to keep track of all these data for your previous version so that you can improve in the future. So that is some sample of the requirements document. And some of you may recall that I said earlier, in Scrum projects, how do we how do we document requirements? We would use user stories, okay? So user stories is popular for Scrum project, but for non-Scrum projects, this is how people generally would do to write the requirements document. Okay, so now you know how to write requirements document if you don't want to be restricted to Scrum. But of course, later on, if you want, you can always rewrite a requirement written in this format to a user story kind of format. So that's possible. Okay. And this describe requirements collection process. What kind of techniques are there? Questionnaires, surveys, facilitated group workshops. That means some people would get together to spend anywhere from half a day to, let's say, 3 days, and all the stakeholders would come together and they try to agree on the requirements. So that is the second one. Delphi technique. Remember, we said some of these things are not totally new. So the PMP was defined by some of the stuff that we taught already. Okay, Delphi technique. Remember what is Delphi technique? 有冇人記得啊？個 technique 咧就係let's say a group of 5 people, we say we want to estimate a task, how long it takes. So each person write down a number, or like number of days, person day, to complete a task. And then the Delphi technique would allow them to write independently. And then once everyone is done, they flip their answer open and to show each other. So if some people say it's 3 days, some people say it's 4 days, then they try to discuss and then perhaps independently make another guess. So the Delphi technique, the main thing of Delphi technique is to sort of you make your guess independently. Okay, so if we apply it to requirements, it can be used to identify what requirements are most important. Okay, so maybe they each write down what requirements they need. So and then we can collect what they need, and then also they would independently prioritize them. So the high priority ones, they open up. So the high priority ones agreed by most people will be the one that will be chosen for implementation. So that is in the Delphi technique. Okay, that is for people to make an estimation or identify requirements sort of independently. Okay, so to make sure that it is really independent. Okay. Focus group. Focus group is different from the facilitated group workshop. Usually, focus group, you have all the customers together. For example, if you are building a game, then you may invite game players to attend this focus group. Okay. Unlike the group workshop, maybe you can have different type of people taking part in it. But focus group is you focus on sort of one type of people. Usually, is the user. Interviews and observations. Observation means you have someone. You try to observe how they do their work. Okay. Interview means just talking to them face to face. So this is how we collect requirements. And this slide shows the use of work breakdown structure to project management. So this shows two ways to break down the game Cows Gone Wild 3. Okay. One way is to break it down by as 4 parts: project management, design, construction, and testing. Okay, so this division is more by the task that you can do. Okay, and this other ones, right hand side, is divided by the work products. So you can, depending on how you divide your project into parts. You can divide by the task, or you can divide by structures, or sometimes you can divide by the time. Let's say earlier time, middle time, later time. So depending on how you divide it, even for work product, occasionally there may be minor differences, but it depends on how you divide things. You may have different breakdown structure. Okay. So this is maybe in bigger fonts. Okay, and in project management, we can have different activities, and also in design, role-playing game, like you would have story, you may have software design, you have different characters, and you have different scenery, different background, okay, to match these. So this is like one way to break things down. And And this shows another example. Last time show divide by like this, okay? But this is actually basically the same game. You can break it down slightly differently. Some components may still be the same. For example, writing story, creating scenery, but then some component may be slightly different. So there is not really one single way of dividing up the work. So there are different ways you can divide. But why do we want to break it down? Okay, what's the reason of break down a product? 有咩好處啊？有咩用處？ Okay, so first is with a big project like this, you really don't know how many tasks there would be. Without breaking up into small tasks or small products, you cannot estimate how much time to do each piece of work, and also you cannot assign work to someone. If you want to assign some people to write the story, assign some people to sketch the characters, you need to divide the task up small enough, then you can assign it to someone, and also you can estimate the effort, and this is how you can manage a project. If you look at a project, a system as one big thing, there's no way you can have people to coordinate. So that is why we want to let's see. Okay, so let's look at this question, which is not an output of a scope management process. Okay, and this, actually this is the question one. You are project manager for a software project. One of the team discovered that if they deviate from the plan, they can skip one of the deliverables because it's no longer necessary. They do the calculation and think they can save the customer 10%. And they decide to cut the work, okay, to reduce 10% of the cost for the customer. And after they've done it, they told the customer, you, the following week. So what is this situation? So this is a possible question for PMP exam. Okay, the project team has taken initiative and saved the customer's money. A dispute is resolved in favor of the customer. The team informed the project manager and of the change. So please study this answer. I'm going to ask you to choose one, okay? So I'm going to ask you to choose one in 30 seconds. And if you don't raise your hand, then I may ask you to explain why. Why you don't raise your hand, okay? Then you have to explain. Okay, who said the answer should be A? Nobody. Okay. Now sometimes the answer in a PMP exam, there are always multiple choice, and the tricky part is sometimes more than one answer may look correct. So you have to choose which one is the best answer sometimes. Or sometimes you don't know the answer, then how can you make a good guess? The strategy is to find out what answer looks very bad, then you just eliminate it, okay? Even if you don't know the answer. So nobody pick anybody A? No? How about B? No? C? 1C, the team informed the project manager of the change, but they should not have informed, they should have informed the customer. Okay. And how about D? Anyone D? So one person picked C. The team informed the project manager of the change, but they should have informed the customer too. Actually, I think, as I said earlier, sometimes more than one answer is sort of correct, okay? But in this case, probably the best answer is D, okay? Because they did not follow the control. I think I can double check my answer, okay? Actually, from this is in okay. So this says, well, as I said earlier, sometimes actually more than the tricky part of 所以即係大家唔好以為 PMP 考 multiple choice 考 multi 好易考啫，佢哋就係特登係要整一啲 they purposely make this very tricky answers to trick you, okay? So sort of more than one answers is correct, but then they expect you to find the best answer because the very 即係呢個係鐵一般嘅事實咧，就係咧。嗰個 team 係冇跟程序去做，咁呢樣嘢係冇得拗噶嘛。咁但係咧嗱，調翻轉頭咧，譬如所以其實我諗我記得我以前試過咧，我有一年俾啲同學咧就係即係有一啲咁樣嘅題目答嘅時候咧，嗰年咧。我係會有啲答案咧，我係俾譬如 D 咧就係俾滿分 ，C 就俾一半分啊咁樣嘅。但係可惜我諗 PMP 佢哋係啱就啱，錯就錯，佢冇俾一半分。嗱，另外一個 the other sort of nice answer is the project team takes initiative and save customer money. Okay, this answer also sounds very good too, but the tricky part is maybe the customers already consider that options. Okay, so and then perhaps they may have already rejected the option previously. So by doing that without consulting them, you may be making a wrong decision. So it's important to follow, but I think I would say C is also a good answer. Okay, so let's see.住呢個細 screen 我成日走唔得返。Okay, so how about let's take a short break while I save the file and try to get out of this. So take a 3-4 minutes break.